Picture this. A broken woman stands in the shadow of the ancient tabernacle at Shiloh, her lips moving silently, her heart pouring out years of anguish. The high priest Eli watches from across the courtyard, convinced she's drunk. But what he couldn't see, what most of us miss even today, is that Hannah was using a prayer approach so powerful it would literally reach the throne room of heaven and reshape the destiny of Israel. In 1 Samuel 1 verse 10, we read that Hannah prayed unto the Lord and wept sore. But here's what will transform your prayer life. The Hebrew word used for prayed here isn't the typical word for prayer you'll find elsewhere in Scripture. It's Palal. And this single word contains a strategy that can turn your most desperate moments into divine breakthroughs. If you're hungry for biblical truths that transform, hit subscribe and the bell now to join our journey into the mysteries that Yahweh has preserved for such a time as this. How many of you have stood in that place, that desert season where your prayers feel powerless, where the silence from heaven seems deafening? Hannah knew this struggle intimately. For years, she carried the burden of barrenness in a culture where childlessness brought social shame and personal anguish. This was approximately 1100 BC, during the period of the Judges, when every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Judges 17 verse 6. Israel was spiritually adrift, the priesthood was compromised, and the nation desperately needed divine intervention. The tabernacle at Shiloh was the center of Israel's worship, yet moral chaos reigned throughout the land. Here's what makes Hannah's story remarkable. While barrenness was often misjudged as divine displeasure in her culture, despite God's heart for women like Sarah and Rachel, Hannah approached Yahweh with bold faith that would change everything. Let's examine what really happened in that sacred moment. 1 Samuel 1 verse 10 uses the Hebrew word Palal for Hannah's prayer. Unlike typical prayers, Palal means to intercede, to stand in the gap. It's the same word used when Moses interceded for Israel after the golden calf incident in Exodus 32 verse 11. It carries the weight of advocacy, of standing before heaven on behalf of another. But Hannah wasn't just praying for herself. She was interceding for Israel's future. Look at verse 11. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life. Notice she addresses God as Lord of hosts, Yahweh Sabaoth in Hebrew. This name emphasizes God as commander of heaven's armies. Hannah understood that her struggle was part of a larger spiritual battle, and she needed divine intervention at that level. The second powerful element is in verse 13. Hannah spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. The phrase spake in her heart uses the Hebrew davar, which means to declare or speak with authority. Hannah wasn't just pleading, she was declaring God's promises back to him. Consider the parallel with the Shunammite woman in 2 Kings 4 verse 26, who declared, It is well, despite her son's death. Both women spoke with faith-filled authority over impossible circumstances. Here's the transformative truth hidden in Hannah's prayer. She combined intercession with covenant-making, creating what we might call covenant prayer, praying not just from your pain, but from God's promises and your commitment to his purposes. Hannah's prayer in verse 11 follows a specific pattern. She presented her case, look on the affliction, made her request, give unto thine handmaid a man-child, and offered covenant terms, I will give him unto the Lord. This wasn't emotional pleading. This was faith-filled negotiation based on covenant relationship. But here's the key. Hannah made a vow, nadar in Hebrew, which creates a binding covenant with God. She wasn't just asking for blessing. She was offering partnership with Yahweh's purposes. Her barrenness became the gateway to birthing Samuel, who would anoint Israel's greatest kings. When Yeshua taught us to pray, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in Matthew 6 verse 10, he was teaching us this same principle, praying from heaven's perspective and committing to God's purposes, not just our personal needs. How do you apply Hannah's strategy in your own prayer life? Here's a practical 3-step process. Step 1. Pray with intercession, Palal. Approach prayer knowing that through Yeshua's work, you have access to God's throne. Instead of just presenting problems, pray with authority as God's covenant child. Declare, I come before you, Yahweh, with a right to approach your throne of grace. Hebrews 4 verse 16. Step 2. Address God's power. When facing battles requiring divine intervention, call on Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts. This acknowledges that your struggle connects to larger spiritual realities. Say, Yahweh Sabaoth, I need your power in this situation. Step 3. Make your covenant commitment. Follow Hannah's example by offering a specific commitment to align with God's purposes when He moves in your situation. This deepens your partnership with Yahweh rather than creating a transaction. Pray, Lord, when you move in this situation, I commit to using this breakthrough to serve your kingdom. Let me share a testimony that illustrates this principle. Rachel, a member of our community, discovered Hannah's approach during her darkest season. After losing her job, she faced mounting bills and felt spiritually empty, much like Hannah's barrenness. For months, she prayed desperately but felt like her words were hitting the ceiling. Feeling hopeless and ready to give up, Rachel almost stopped praying altogether. But a friend invited her to a women's Bible study on 1 Samuel. As the group discussed Hannah's story, something clicked. Rachel realized she'd been praying from her desperation instead of from God's promises. That night, she decided to try Hannah's approach. Instead of just asking God to fix her problems, Rachel began declaring His promises over her situation. She would pray each morning, Yahweh, you are my provider and defender. I stand in the gap for my future, and I promise that every breakthrough you give me will help others find your faithfulness. Within months, Rachel received an unexpected job offer with better opportunities, connected with a mentor who guided her through her career transition, and started a small group to encourage others facing financial struggles. Like Hannah, she discovered that when you combine faith-filled prayer with covenant commitment, breakthrough follows. If this revelation has stirred something in your spirit, if you sense Yahweh calling you to step into this kind of covenant prayer, type breakthrough in the comments below. And here's my question for you. What's one area of your life where you've been praying from desperation instead of from God's promises? Share it in the comments. Your vulnerability might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Let's create a wave of faith and breakthrough across this community. If this truth has impacted you, hit that like button to help spread this revelation to others who need to discover Hannah's prayer strategy. Your engagement helps God's truth reach another searching heart. Subscribe and ring that notification bell because we're exploring biblical mysteries that can transform your walk with Yahweh, the God of Israel. Here's something special. If you want to deepen your intimacy with Yahweh through His revealed names, grab my free guide, 7 Hidden Names of God, linked in the description or our latest community post. These aren't just concepts. They're keys to accessing different dimensions of God's character in your prayer life. Before you go, remember this truth. Through Yeshua's finished work, you have access to the same covenant relationship that transformed Hannah from barrenness to breakthrough. Your current season of waiting, your unanswered prayers, these aren't your destination. They're your preparation for purpose. When you learn to pray with Hannah's faith, combining intercession with covenant commitment, you're not just changing your situation. You're partnering with God's greater plan for this generation. Next time, we're diving into another forgotten biblical mystery that will revolutionize how you walk in God's power and authority. Don't miss it. Subscribe and hit that bell to join us on this journey of uncovering Yahweh's mysteries. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, and Yahweh is faithful to complete what He has started in you. Walk in the authority of His promises, pray from His perspective, and watch Him turn your season of waiting into your season of harvest. Shalom.